Today we announce charges against Ghislaine Maxwell for helping Jeffrey Epstein sexually exploit and abuse multiple minor girls from the period of 1994 through 1997. Maxwell has been taken into custody early this morning in New Hampshire and will be presented this afternoon before a magistrate judge in the District of New Hampshire. You'll recall that the indictment against Jeffrey Epstein that we filed in July of 2019 charged Epstein with sexual abuse of young girls from 2002 through 2005. This case against Ghislaine Maxwell is the prequel to the earlier case that we brought against Jeffrey Epstein. As alleged, starting in 1994 until at least 1997, Maxwell had a personal and professional relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell was among Epstein's closest associates and helped him exploit girls who were as young as 14 years old. Maxwell played a critical role in helping Epstein to identify, befriend, and groom minor victims for abuse. In some cases, Maxwell participated in the abuse herself. As alleged, Maxwell and Epstein had a method. Typically, they would befriend these young girls by asking them questions about their lives, pretending to be taking an interest in them. They would take them to the movies and treat them to shopping trips. Maxwell would encourage these young girls to accept offers from Epstein to pay for their travel and their education, making these young victims feel indebted to Jeffrey Epstein. After developing a rapport with the victims, Maxwell then tried to normalize sexual abuse with a minor victim through a process known as grooming. For example, Maxwell would discuss sexual topics with the victim and undress in front of the victim, or be present for sex acts involving the minor victims and Epstein.
Ghislaine Maxwell, the British socialite and heiress who became a confidant of disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein and was later implicated in his alleged sexual crimes, has been arrested by the FBI. She was arrested in Bradford, New Hampshire, around 8:30 a.m. Thursday on charges she conspired with Epstein to sexually abuse minors. She was found living at a reclusive $1 million luxury home with 156 acres of rural mountainside property, federal prosecutors said. In a brief electronic appearance in New Hampshire federal court Thursday afternoon, a judge remanded her to the custody of the U.S. Marshals and ordered her transferred to New York City. She did not enter a plea, and her attorney indicated he will seek a detention hearing in New York, a prelude to a possible bail request. The 6-count indictment in Manhattan federal court alleges that Maxwell helped Epstein groom girls as young as 14 years old, going back as far as 1994. Prosecutors say she was in the room during and took part in the sexual abuse of 3 underage girls at Epstein's Upper East Side townhouse, his Florida estate, and his ranch in New Mexico. She faces up to 35 years in prison. This case against Ghislaine Maxwell is the prequel to the earlier case we brought against Jeffrey Epstein, acting Manhattan U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss said at a news conference on the indictment. The FBI said that it had been tracking her movements for some time, though she was not indicted until June 29. The daughter of British media baron Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine was a one-time girlfriend of Epstein's and was at the high-flying investor's side for decades. But she was also alleged to have helped Epstein groom teen girls for sex with the rich and powerful. One of those teens, Virginia Roberts Teufer, leveled that charge against Maxwell in a 2015 defamation suit, as have a number of other women since. Epstein, a registered sex offender who nonetheless kept company with presidents and captains of industry, was arrested last summer on new federal charges of exploiting dozens of underage girls in New York and Florida in the early 2000s. He attempted suicide in custody in late July and then died after another suicide attempt in early August. Two of the guards tasked with monitoring Epstein at the Metropolitan Correctional Center now face federal charges for not properly supervising him before his death. One day before his suicide, a federal appeals court released the transcript of a 2016 deposition in which Epstein repeatedly refused to say whether Maxwell had procured young girls for him. Maxwell now faces multiple counts of perjury for allegedly lying in her own deposition about Epstein's sexual activities. It is possible, depending on a bail ruling and other factors, that Maxwell could eventually be held in the same facility where Epstein died, law enforcement sources said. Prosecutors called her a serious flight risk and asked that she be held pending trial. Maxwell has stayed below the radar since Epstein's death, as speculations swirled about whether she could face repercussions for her friend's alleged abuses, and her whereabouts remained a mystery until her arrest. Federal prosecutors said that Maxwell paid cash through a limited liability company for the picturesque retreat where she was found, and the LLC had been established just a month before the secretive sale. Two people familiar with the real estate deal said the description of the home matched a listing that sold for $1,707,750 last December. A person familiar with the transaction, which was shrouded in secrecy, told NBC News the buyer was an anonymous mystery woman, leading them to wonder if it was a big-name actress or celebrity. The 4,300-square-foot estate sits at the top of a half-mile-long driveway, making it an ideal location for anyone looking to stay hidden. A handful of residents of Bradford, a town of 1,600 people, said they had never seen Maxwell in town, nor had they heard of her before Thursday. The FBI said that they knew Maxwell had been in New Hampshire, but they were waiting on the indictment to make the arrest. In a statement sent to NBC News following the arrest, a former alleged victim of Epstein said that she and other victims can now have some sense of relief. Dan Kaiser, an attorney representing other Epstein victims, called Maxwell the architect of Epstein's sex ring and can now be held accountable. No court date has yet been set for the arraignment. Her arrest drew calls for justice at the highest levels. SAS, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, has pushed aggressively for the Justice Department to investigate what was described as a sweetheart deal that gave Epstein and others immunity from federal charges in 2007. Then Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta was involved in negotiating that deal, and 12 years later, he resigned as Labor Secretary amid criticism of the arrangement. The case also ensnared British royalty, bringing an end to the royal duties of Epstein's friend Prince Andrew. Prosecutors have been seeking to speak with him for months about his friendship with the financier and the allegations of abuse. "We would welcome Prince Andrew coming in to talk with us," Strauss said Thursday. "We would like to have the benefit of his statement."